Let me, nope, never mind. Never mind. Is, so let's take it back. Um, let's take it back to 2023. Okay. What was ASU's record in 2023? Ding, ding, ding. Not good. Okay. Easy. Easy quiz. You guys passed it with flying colors. Great job. Now, you fast forward. What was their record in 2024 when they bring in a quarterback from Michigan State, Dillingham's second year with ASU? What was their record? Much better. 10-2. Get to the Peach Bowl. Win the Big 12. Much better season. Okay. Now, with their take on, okay, how can this and that and that and this? Yes, we live in a day and age now where, why are they showing? Huh? Oh. Okay. Oh, that's why they're showing. So apparently his nephew was the one that got the game winning, sealed it. Sealed it. And the Hoosiers are national champions. No, what I was gonna say was the are we oh I think McAfee's broadcast is done. Done. It is done. Because if they're done, then Scott Van Pelt. Congrats to Mendoza. Congrats to him. Congrats to him. No, Mendoza, dude, Mendoza freaking deserves it, dude. Mendoza played phenomenal. Trying to see if there's anything else. The trophy run? Ooh. Ooh, what's this? This is it's a cool little mini movie. Little recap of the whole thing. The dive. Diving for the end zone. And then there goes Tony. Tony to put this thing back in 3 points. And then, wow. Congratulations, Indiana. No, congrats indeed. No, I think. Well, okay, sorry. Back to it. I made a point forever ago in the stream, and then I've gotten distracted like 12 bajillion times. Sorry, people. No, the idea and the thought behind you can build a team and build a roster. I think we are definitely in that day and age of college football, and I think, I mean, it goes and it shows that literally, does anybody remember? Hoosier fans probably do, and there's parts of me, and I say this jokingly because, you know, we all turn into bandwagons. I mean, I even turned into a bigger bandwagon when ASU had their successful run last season. Does anybody remember when Penn State and Indiana played each other back in 2020? The Michael Penix play where he's extending in double overtime, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if he necessarily won that. And a lot of people were talking about it, and there's a lot of controversy behind it and stuff. There's parts of me that wonder, how are those Hoosier fans feeling now? You know what I mean? All these years later. And parts of me, with just how college football is after Indiana lost to Notre Dame, I felt this way about Tennessee losing to Ohio State. I kind of felt this way about SMU losing to Penn State. I feel this way about, I mean, even this season with Tulane losing to Ole Miss or JMU to Oregon. Like, there's parts of me that thought, okay, you know what? There will be teams that get into the dance, and they get into the dance, and it's like, okay, cool. But there's going to be a difference between teams that get into the dance every single year versus teams that get into the dance and make some noise. And I think this year showed that, you know what, Indiana can make some noise. And I'm thinking that, I don't know, like I really thought after last year when Indiana lost to Notre Dame, I'm not going to, not going to sugarcoat it. I thought they were one of those teams that, yeah, they could probably make it here and there. It's not like they're going to go far. It's not like they're going to make big, significant changes to the roster or anything to be like a Clemson, like a Bama, like a Georgia, like, all these blue bloods before them, to be one of those teams that, yeah, okay, this team can win it all. This team can be one of those teams that win it all. Clearly foot and mouth about a year later when, hey, who has the last laugh? Cignetti. Who wins? Cignetti. You better Google him. Which, the fact that he says, I win, Google me, and then 2 years later he's winning a national championship, that's some gangster shit right there. Like, you can't even write a better script than that. Like, that is some, because who, I mean, shit, let's look at some teams that have been, I mean, I'm thinking about some long tenured coaches who's been with their program. I mean, Whittingham, he was with Utah forever before he went to Michigan. I'm thinking of, who's the dude? Oh my, Christ. Is it Gilchrist? The guy that's with Iowa. He's the longest tenure head coach now. Which, in fact, let me pull it up. Let me pull it up. Longest tenure college football coaches. Because, again, Ferentz, that's his name. And Mike Gundy, because Gundy was with Oklahoma. And then Troy Calhoun, too. You can't forget about the cadet schools, Troy Calhoun. But Mike Gundy got fired this year, and Kyle Whittingham is with Michigan. Oh, sorry. Let me show you. Um, I think I'm going to be honest. This isn't saying that Kirk Ferentz or Kyle Whittingham or Mike Gundy are any less coaches than Kirk Cignetti. But like, this is what's so crazy about college football is Cignetti in 2 years has done more than Ferentz and Whittingham have done their whole career. Like that is crazy. That is crazy to think about, and that is crazy when you word it like that, considering how good they are as coaches just in general. Like it's crazy, but that shows to me like what kind of well just where we are with college football. Where yeah, you can be 2 years ago back in 2023, they were 3-9, and then now 2 years later they win the national championship. Which in fact, you want to know what I want to do for fun, guys? Let's go look. Let's go look at teams that were. Let's go rewind the clock back to 2023 standings. 2023. Okay, let's go look just because I want to do this for fun. Okay, Tulsa. Well, okay, hold on. These are AAC teams. Okay, let's go to the ACC first. That's the equivalent of Boston College winning the national championship. That's the equivalent of Miami, Virginia, or Virginia Tech winning the national championship. It's the equivalent to, I mean, you scroll down here to the Pac-12. Hey. Anybody notice this team right here? I went to a handful of these games. Yeah, I was there when they got dog walked by Oregon in the first quarter. Because, hey, anybody know the name Bo Nix? But let's look at some other teams here. In the Big 12, this is the year TCU went on their phenomenal run. It's Iowa State going to the national championship, which, you know what? There's parts of me that felt like Iowa State had a team this year. They really did. But there were some, I mean, clearly not enough of a team. Like, I thought Iowa State and Kansas State were going to play in the Big 12 this year. That's just me. I thought they would have had a big year, but no. Look at that. 2-7 in conference play. 4-8 overall. Who did the Hoosiers? Oh, come on. Yeah, it's not going to show me. But who did the Hoosiers play? 23-24. Come on. Syracuse and Pitt. There we are. 3-9. That's as if Michigan State turned around and had a great year next year. Purdue, which, yeah, you look at Purdue and it's like Purdue's never winning the national championship. There we are. Woo, ASU, baby. 3-9. Back-to-back seasons at 3-9. This was Dillingham's first year, and then we saw what happened in the second year. Washington State. You know what would be fun, too? Okay. If we're playing fun story Fantasyland if we're going to play Fantasyland on college football, you want to know the next fun thing that should happen if we want to write a good story? Washington State or Oregon State should win the national championship next year. It's not going to happen. I know for a fact it's not going to happen. But how fun would that be? Where, hey, horse, man with no country, or horse without a name, been through a desert on a horse with no name. Sorry, I was trying to make a joke here, but it's like, yeah, imagine a team that doesn't have a conference winning the national championship, which, I mean, Notre Dame could do that, but they haven't. But Imagine how funny how funny that would be, where Washington State has finished the last handful of seasons hovering around 500. I think this year they went 6-6, but yeah, watch right after Mateer left, after Cam Ward left. This place seems to be a team that develops quarterbacks and gets them ready to go get big NIL money, big bucks, big coins. Watch them keep some of the guys together and then go on a hell of a run and win the national championship. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. And you know what? It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to try to predict that, considering 2 years ago, look at where Indiana was. But again, like Herb Street said, got to have a successful coach, and you got to use the portal. Look at Vandy. We've seen how far Vandy has gotten in the last 2 years. Mississippi State and Arkansas are kind of still floating in the same boat. But, yeah, what we just saw would be the equivalent of Arkansas, Mississippi, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Colorado with Dion, ASU, Stanford, Washington State, Purdue, no, or Michigan State. That'd be the equivalent. Or Cincinnati or Baylor. Baylor got Lagway. Everybody's going to be riding high on that. I'm not. I think Baylor's going to continue to do what Baylor has done. A lot of people were really high on Baylor this year. Personally, I wasn't. I think Sawyer Robinson is going to be pretty decent. He'll have a decent combine. He'll probably get drafted in the second round, but yeah. All right, people. Let's talk about the game, shall we? I haven't given very much thought about the game because I've kind of just been reacting to the fact of where we are with college football is that it's not a pay-to-win league as much as people want to specify it as, but I think it's definitely a culture-building league, and I think it's definitely a league where if you get the right pieces together, you are going to win. Because under that same breath, you look at Texas Tech. You see how much money Texas Tech put into the portal, and you see how much Texas Tech, with Mahomes, because I think Mahomes donated some cash, which there is going to be a turnaround. Like, let me be fully transparent here. There is going to be a turnaround too, because a lot of people, as much as they're hitting the portal now, look alive because you want to know which team is going to be the Texas Tech of this next season. Kansas Jayhawks. And you want to know another team? I personally think too, the Utes as well. And why is that? Money. Like, if you want to look at it from a money point of view, it's no different, because the year before it was Ohio State. This year it was Texas Tech. Next year it's going to be Kansas or Utah, just depending on who you want to look at. But I think what Indiana has proven this season is that money can buy you championships, but at the same time, I don't think money does buy you championships. Because there's parts of me that think that when you tell the story of college football as a whole, something tells me that a lot of people are going to favor and talk more fondly on the Indiana team versus Ohio State last year. And that's not me showing Indiana bias. That's me talking about how, Ohio State did dog walk everybody in the college playoff, but Michigan fans are never going to let them live down. Hey, remember how you guys were favored by, I don't know, a bajillion points in your own place, and you lost to our third string quarterback 13-10? Y'all remember that? not try to, poke fun or, bring up a sore subject for Buckeye fans, but I think when it goes without saying, people are going to remember how the 2 stars and the 3 stars, like Surratt here. Yeah, this dude, not on anybody's big board for recruiting. He was not highly touted. He wasn't one of the top athletes. Nobody looked at him. Who are people looking at? They're looking at Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Love as well. Which, that's no discredit to those guys either, because, I've said it a handful of times. What I think we are in right now in college football is, I think right now we're in the Wild West of it for a little bit, where, you know what? Right now we're kind of in this weird, I can't even try to compare it to history where it's like we're in the Gilded Age, or we're in the the Roman Empire age, or the fall of Constantinople and how that affects LeBron's like I don't know, maybe the Roaring 20s, which I know that sounds so stupid to try to compare it to the 1920s, but there's parts of me that think when you look at the last few handful of national championships, let's go from TCU, Georgia to now. Look at how many new names and new faces have been there. It's not like, okay, we're going to get Clemson and Bama, or Bama, Georgia, or Georgia, Ohio State, or it's been someone different every single time. And there's something that's telling me with the NIL portal and stuff, not that, you get to buy your rings and buy your roster in the way of how, let's throw it back before NIL, and let's throw it back to the middle of Saban's run with Bama. But it's he's talked about it, where if you wanted to prove yourself, you would go to these top programs. If you wanted to prove yourself, you'd go play for Brian Kelly, and you'd go to Notre Dame. You'd go prove yourself to Chip Kelly, go play for Oregon during the Mariota days or after the Mariota days. You'd go play for, obviously, Coach Saban at Bama, Coach Meyer at Ohio State. There was no, we knew who the best teams were. Bob Stoops with Oklahoma, and then also Lincoln Riley a little bit with Oklahoma too, because that transition and that switch, Sooner fans, we know it. It was a smooth, clean switch from one coach to the next. He left, Stoops left Oklahoma in good hands. But what I'm trying to say here, and the point that I'm trying to make, is that since that time, we have seen someone different just about every single year. And I think with what college football has turned into, and why I keep making that sentiment of we are kind of in the Wild West, where there's no laws and no regulations, and we're kind of just, hey, maybe the best team win, because there's no rules and there's no, not government, because that's such a weird, dumb word to use in college football, but just we're noticing that, hey, when you are Indiana, or you are Oregon, or Notre Dame, or Georgia Tech, or BYU, or Kansas, Iowa State, Penn State, whoever you are, hey, you know what? If we have enough of our boosters or our alumni who have money, who are yeah, you know what? I have an extra $200,000 laying around. You know what? We got a pretty decent 4-star here. Let's go pay him $400,000 for 3 months. Well, technically it'd be a year, but from summer camp, because let's be real, one thing that's probably going to go away, and people have talked about it, spring ball. There is a hot theory out there that spring ball is going to go away, and that people are going to stop paying attention to spring ball because the transfer portal window opens around springtime, and so a lot of people are predicting that it's going to go away because, okay, cool, you play in the spring game, but then you realize, okay, I'm not going to be the starting quarterback, or I'm going to be 3rd or 4th on the depth chart. I might as well go to a different school that will play me or give me the chance to go play. So that's one theory. spoiler alert, breaking news that some people have collected is that spring ball is going to go away, and the only time that you really need to pay attention to college football is in the summer. But I think one thing that I want to say though is when you have alumni who can, fork over $400,000 to pay for an athlete for 6 months. There's parts of me that think, it doesn't matter how many stars this player has, they're going to go. They're going to go. Why would they not want to benefit themselves with, a $400,000 paycheck? And so when there's no rules and regulations and checks and balances to equal that out, it shows where, that makes sense that the best players on the field come from all different schools. Like, for example, there's parts of me that think, like, if the NIL was not as widespread as it is now, Malachi Tony would probably still be at Miami because it is Miami. Miami is a prestigious school when it comes to football. Like, they have had the history to be up there in conversations. But like, you look at if Tony isn't at Miami, he's probably at Ohio State. For hell's sakes, look at Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood's at Michigan. And I'm here to tell you, it's probably not because, Michigan wants to develop him. He was paid $19 million. No, 4. Sorry. His number is 19. But I think when, like, you look at Tony, you look at Bain Jr., you look at, who are some other standout athletes this season? Like, hell, even Isaiah Bond, after some of the phenomenal games he had at Bama, he decided to transfer out. But I think that we have come to a spot in college football where lots of me believe, like, these athletes that are just phenomenal on one team and just kind of the standout athlete. I'll compare it to Scatabo, for example, with Arizona State. There's parts of me that would believe, because he came from Sacramento State and the NIL probably definitely, involved his thought decision to go to Arizona State. There's parts of me that believe, like, if the NIL wasn't a thing, he's not going to ASU. For hell's sakes, there's reports that Sam Levitt's going to be QB1 at LSU, and he's going from ASU to LSU. You know who else goes from ASU to LSU? Jaden Daniels. Why? Because reportedly, ASU is a feeder school. If you ask anybody 5 years ago what ASU and other Pac-12 teams are, they're feeder schools. What was Indiana? A feeder school. To what teams? Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. Why? Because Indiana is not as good as they're supposed to be, because Indiana is like Purdue, Maryland, Nebraska, a feeder school. But now, with the NIL collective and stuff, there's parts of me that think, like, we have come to the point where I think any team can compete if they have a decent enough roster. And I'm thinking that what used to be, Julio Jones is going to go to Bama. Deshaun Watson is going to go to Clemson. I'm trying to think. Manti Te'o is going to go to Notre Dame. And all these decisions and processes, we've noticed who was the Heisman winner and top 3 draft pick in recent memory? Travis Hunter. Where did Travis Hunter start his career? At Jackson State. And he followed his coach to Colorado. So I'm thinking players like him who have that talent, they're going to follow their coach. We're seeing it right now with Becht, and half of the Iowa State roster go to Penn State. But we are noticing that these star athletes, like the Mendozas, like the Travis Hunters, they're not going to those big school programs anymore. They're going to the smaller schools. And sorry, I had to take a swig. I think that's going to have probably a lasting impact on college football when it's all said and done. Because, yeah, if I'm, I think it was pretty evident that, you know what, hey, we're a team not full of 5-star athletes, but we have decent enough athletes to get a team here and build a team together that knows how to win and can learn how to win together. Which I loved how one of Saban's thoughts on 5-star and 4-star athletes, which maybe he's bullshitting and he knew they were 5 stars, but he's like, who made them 5 stars? Looking at that, and it's like, no, that is a hot take. Like, who's to say my comparison of why this player is a 5-star compared to another reporter or something? Like, we might look at which Mendoza, by the way, Mendoza not ranked, no stars. Cam Ward not ranked, no stars. These two are going to be back-to-back number 1 overall draft prospects. So, what do the national ratings really mean? You know what I mean? So, and that's not a negative connotation. That's just calling it how it is. Okay, so how did the game start? Okay, our first touchdown of the game was by our big boy here. This was after a tremendous effort by Becker to get it down on the goal line. Again, this game was physical. This game was dirty. Miami was getting after Mendoza what felt like the whole damn game. Dude had a bloody lip and all. Just the physicality and setting the tone by Miami definitely, started the game. And I think after what probably determined the rest of the game was after Miami let off the gas a little bit with physicality, that's where Indiana kind of came back and made this thing competitive. What else do I think was a big? I think Becker had a good game. One thing that can't be ignored is Tony and Fletcher. I think, and either Beck just was terrible today or Indiana's defense had no answer, because I don't know. Like, Tony played absolutely out of his mind. And I mean, with the run game and how the run game was for what felt like the whole game, eventually it broke loose, and Fletcher did have 2 touchdowns on this game, which that can't be ignored either. It wasn't. What I'm trying to say is, at one point in this game, and people are going to forget it, I forgot it till I remembered. At one point in this game, Beck and Mendoza in the second half, somewhere like in the first 10-ish minutes of the third quarter, both of them had the same amount of completions and the same amount of yards. It was like 110 or something like that. But then in the second half, that's when Mendoza had a better game. But it took till that drive where he's diving in the end zone to score a touchdown, because second half points and yards, you know who owned the second half until the Mendoza touchdown? Miami. And that's going to be forgot, and it's going to be, just one of those things lost in time when we look at the game and how the game played out, is everything switched for Indiana after that blocked punt. Like, if there is no blocked punt, there's parts of me that think there is no momentum that builds for Indiana to get to the point where Mendoza's diving like Superman into the end zone. Which, yeah, this one's going to be a fun one to look at. Like, Indiana Hoosier lore, I'm going to say this is probably going to be remembered forever and probably the greatest play in Hoosier football history forever. And again, 0-star athlete here. Overlooked, could have been a walk-on at Miami. 0-star, whatever. Non-athlete, doesn't know how to play football, whatever. But, yeah. I think, back to my point, though, on college football, is I think right now, when you look at Refs wore blinders on the whole game, penalties everywhere, yet the refs lost their whistles. I love how you say that because you want to know something that wasn't called all game. Does anybody remember first two drives of the game where Thomas took a cheap shot on Mendoza, crown of the helmet, and didn't get ejected from the game? I mean, the refs let him play all game. There was no oh, this is bullshit. There was no horse shit call from the refs at all this whole game. In fact, this was probably, you look at this game, you look at some of the NFL games, or you look at, hell, let's rewind it back to the Sugar Bowl, shall we? With Ole Miss and Georgia. How many shots did Georgia get to try to make a miracle play on the last play of the game? You know, there were non-calls because that is how the whole game was. This game was going to be physical from the get-go, and the refs decided to hold their whistle because, I mean, if you'd done some backup research, this Big 12 crew that was on this game, to quote Pat McAfee, lets the boys play. So, if anything, what was horseshit calls was in favor of Miami, because I mean Miami got bailed out there at the very last drive with a roughing the passer. I mean, he did hit him late, but there's 15 that you spotted against Indiana. Indiana ended up winning. Thomas's targeting call at the beginning of the game that wasn't called. There were also a lot of hand fighting between O'Connor. Dude, O'Connor was holding all day. You look at any of the deep passes that were thrown his way, he was holding Becker all night. He was holding Surratt all night. No call. They let a lot of hand fighting happen. This is what needs to happen. Let the refs sit in the stands then? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to blow the game and favor Miami because we're playing football out here? That's how I feel about the game. Dude, I was rooting for the Hurricanes in this game. Indiana deserves the win, but Mendoza didn't show me high caliber QB. Did you watch the second half? I guess we didn't watch the second half because the dude had perfect back shoulder placements. Did we look at the 4th and 5 catch by Becker on the sideline? Did we look at his touchdown run on 4th and 5, running over the linebacker and spinning into the end zone? Like, yeah, dude played like dog shit in the first half, but did we watch the second half? The dude turned it on in the fourth quarter. Both quarterbacks turned it on in the fourth quarter. Like this, kind of a snooze fest. Yeah. I don't know about you, dude. I don't know what game you watched, but go ahead and think that the refs blew this game, because I'm here to tell you they didn't. Because if the refs were going to blow this game, you know who's winning this game. Miami. Like, it's in Miami. Miami's the home team. This could have been an easy, we don't want LSU's run, Miami's run back in 2001. We don't want Bama. We don't want Florida State. We don't want any of these teams to be compared to this 2025 Hoosiers team. We don't want the Hoosiers to tie Yale and their 100-plus year record of going 16-0. We want that record to stay pure how it is. Fetch Coach Signetti. Fetch what the Hoosiers have done the last 2 years. Let's blow the game right here, right now. Like, dude, this whole game was physical. And if they're not going to call a holding in, like, the first half, they're not going to call a holding in the second half or roughing the passers or anything. Like, this was a dirty, grimy game, and we knew it from the get-go. The refs who officiated this game also officiated the Texas A&M Miami game, which, by the way, was also a brutal freaking game. But, you know, one thing that everybody's going to forget, wind conditions in that game. You know how many blocked field goals or missed field goals was in that game? We're going to blame the refs on that one too? Okay, whatever. Whatever. Refs didn't blow it. Then what the hell was the ref wore blinders the whole game? What? You're backtracking your own statement here, dude. Refs wore blinders the whole game, penalties everywhere, yet the refs lost their whistles. Didn't say the refs blew it. What? Then what are you saying? Are you saying the refs had a good game, or are you saying the refs had a bad game? What? What are we talking about here? Because if we want to talk about the games being blown and terrible officiating, I mean, we can, and we can come at it from that approach. Because, yeah, I think the Ole Miss Georgia game was a little, a little dicey if you want to look at it that way. I think the Broncos Bills game was a little dicey. Texans Patriots game a little dicey. This game was a pretty clean game, all things considered. And I mean, yeah, you go look and you watch how many hand fighting possessions there were. I mean, dude, O'Connor, go watch the game. Whether it was O'Connor on Surratt or Decker, dude, he was holding people all game. Refs let him play, and that's just how the game was. And if you want to go ticky tacky, dude, how many times was Kamara held tonight by Miami's offensive line and they didn't call anything? Dude, freaking, for hell's sakes, one of Mendoza's breakaway runs, literally Bain is being grabbed up around the neck by the tackle on one of Mendoza's scramble plays that he threw towards the sideline. Nothing was called. The refs stayed out of this game. All right, later. Peace out. I don't care. Get mad. Calling it how it is, dude. I mean, because if we want to talk about terrible officiating, let's talk about terrible officiating. Why would, I mean, I'm all for a good story, and yeah, it would seem a little sketchy that out of 100 and whatever some odd years, no team since Yale has gone 16-0, and okay, yeah, give Indiana the free win here, but I think there was no penalty in this game that determined the outcome of the rest of the game. There wasn't. If you watch the game, and if anything too, it's the Hoosiers getting bent over by the refs because false start. There hasn't been a false start all game, and we're sitting at 3rd and 2 or something, and then that, or 2nd and 1, but then it gets backed up. And this was 2 plays later when Mendoza had the rushing touchdown, the gutsy rushing touchdown where he put the linebacker on his ass and did a spin move, diving towards the end zone. That whole drive got halted by the false start. And because of the false start that moved it back 5 yards, Black didn't get that first down, which led it to a 4th and 5, where you even ask and watch Signetti's post-game reaction with his thought process where put the kicker out there to kick the field goal. He didn't feel good about it, so he called a timeout and then drew up the quarterback draw, and then rest was history because Mendoza put it in the end zone. I mean, nobody wants to talk about that. I guess I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's football. Yeah, no, this... Yeah. Like if we want to talk about shoddy ref calling and this and that, let's go back to the first play. Well, first 2 drives of the game. How many late hits were on Mendoza? 0 calls. Just saying, if we want to look at it from that ref point of view, how many hits did Miami get on Mendoza before the refs buckled down? All right. Anyways, moving on. Here's who else had a big game. Fletcher, like I said, 2 rushing touchdowns. Fletcher and Tony kept the offense rolling for Miami because in the second half, slowly there, I think Beck lost his fastball. And there were a couple possessions too where, okay, they better get something going here or this thing's going to get away from them. Because after, I will give a lot of credit though, to Tony and Fletcher though, after Kamara's blocked field goal, this game seemed pretty much over. But they kept it within arm's reach. Perfect backdoor placement here. Back shoulder throw. This is going to, be on everybody's highlight reel when people are talking and assessing Mendoza, is the fact that he was able to put the ball where he needed to be. Safety's not making that play. Corner's not making that play. To anybody wondering about QB play and, being impressive and stuff, what'd you call it? High caliber play. What quarterback's making that throw? What quarterback's making that back shoulder throw? Clearly not Beck, because he threw the game with an interception. Not Gunnar Stockton. Not Dante Moore probably could, because Dante Moore had a few good throws this season. Trying to think who else can make that backdoor throw. Oh yeah, nobody is making that back shoulder throw, because it is one of, you ask any quarterback, it is one of the hardest throws. And a fade in the back of the end zone. What helps a fade route too is when your tight end or your receiver is as tall as Gronk. Okay. Alrighty. But we have Becker's phenomenal catcher. This was also on a 4th and 5 gutsy play call by Signetti to get them the first down. And then handful of plays later, that's where we have Superman putting on his cape, diving into the end zone for the touchdown. What else happened in this game? Yes. Okay, this play right here. And again, okay, we want to talk about the refs letting the boys play. What about this play right here? A little bit of roughing, unnecessary roughness on a defenseless receiver. I mean, you can look at it as a targeting or a headhunt play, even though there's no helmet to helmet here, but tight end didn't sustain possession when he caught this ball before Pons came in there and just lit his ass up. Again, this is football. I think when there are no calls like this, unless it's blatant, and I mean Saints against the Rams blatant, these calls shouldn't be made. And if they weren't made all game, they're not going to get called in the fourth quarter. All right. But yeah, after this play, yeah, Indiana had all the momentum, but this is the drive where Fletcher had his touchdown to kind of silence the noise. I believe it made it 17-14 in the game. Who else had a big game? The two-headed tandem. Yep, he had a big game. I don't know if let me double check. He might be, I think he has more time. Let me go look. I don't know if he's ready to go to the NFL. Does Messidor, oh no, he's a senior. Yep, no, he's gone. Yep. He's going to be high on some draft boards. And if he's not, wouldn't surprise me. Why? Because there is no evaluating defense. There's no, there's like the evaluation of defensive prospects are night and day between offensive guys. It is so, it's blatant. If you go look at it, it's pretty blatant. I mean, like, how many dudes on Clemson's team or Notre Dame's team in 2020 and 2018, or just the linebacking crew of Clemson the years they won the national championships. Like, how many of those guys took actual reps in the NFL? None of them. Like, for example, Becker here. Becker is probably going to get a workout or two in the NFL, and then it's like, okay, great. Glad you're here. See you later. That phenomenal 6-game stretch you had since Thanksgiving, from Thanksgiving to the Big Ten championship game, and in the playoff, you catching a big touchdown in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Thanks for coming. See you later. Like the prospects. Like, dude, look at this. Look at this. Okay, we just finished the season, which I get it. It's for clicks. We just finished this season. And who are we talking about? Coach Freeman in Notre Dame, Arch Manning in Texas, Texas Tech, and Gunnar Stockton with Georgia. Gunnar Stockton with Georgia, I get that, because in the same breath, as much as we're talking about Gunnar Stockton and Georgia, we should be talking about Trinidad as well, and Ole Miss, and him potentially getting another year in college football. But the Hoosiers just won it, and it's already like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Let's talk about these teams. That's like, bro, they just won it an hour ago. Now, do I think the Hoosiers do exactly what they did this year? Absolutely not, because I think it just goes to show how special this senior group is with Mendoza. That's another thing too. I mean, you look at Ohio State's senior class and their group with, Sawyer, Henderson, Judkins, Will Howard, and all those guys. And then, like, you fast forward with all the guys that they lost in the draft. Like, I'm thinking the turnaround that Indiana is about to have is the same that Ohio State had this year. And, I mean, I've watched some games of Hoover at TCU. He's not the same as Mendoza. He's really not. And to expect the same amount of success, I mean, I think that's a pretty high standard. It's a high bar, and even now, whoa, I missed this comment over here. Hold on. Nobody is going to classes in Indiana tomorrow. Probably not. They're probably gonna call it a day. What are we looking at here? No, but like freaking, yeah, we're already looking into next year. No, but Hoover, because that was some news that happened earlier in the month, that he hit the transfer portal from TCU and he's coming in. Like, I think it goes kind of without saying that a lot of success and a lot of reasons why there was a lot of success with Indiana this season was because of Mendoza. I mean, you even saw the reporter asking Coach Signetti how much Mendoza impacted this season, and he just laughed, because it's like, he's been the biggest point on why Indiana won the national championship this season. You look at, like, let's just roll through the recent years. Mendoza this year for Indiana. Will Howard's a decent quarterback. He really is. But you look at Will Howard and you look at the running back room that Ohio State had last year, and how phenomenal Smith was as a freshman, and I don't know how many NFL prospects on that defensive side of the football got drafted. Like, but yeah, with, again, the senior class Ohio State had last year, You go from 25, you go back to 24. Corum, Blake Corum. I guess we've forgotten how good Blake Corum is. I think Rams fans know how good Blake Corum is. But so that's Michigan in 24. And maybe sign stealing. I don't know. Maybe, don't talk about it. But maybe some sign stealing helps if you want to live under that rock and think that Michigan cheated its whole way there. Who won it in 22? Oh, my bad. And then Georgia, both Georgia's back-to-back years. Stetson Bennett, and historic defenses. And maybe the luck of a missed Ohio State kick. Okay. But you also have to put coaching into effect too, because Kirby Smart isn't a slouch. He isn't. Like, Kirby Smart and Georgia, they're going to be in the mix next year. And if you don't think that they're not going to compete and be at least third or fourth place at worst in the SEC, you're joking. You're joking, and clearly you haven't watched enough college football to know that Kirby Smart and Georgia, they're going to be a problem for years and years. And as much as we want to say, oh, the SEC can't compete, the SEC isn't as good, the SEC supremacy isn't real anymore, like how it was in years past, because the Hoosiers have become the third consecutive Big Ten team to win. You know who the SEC has gone through the last 2 years? Georgia. And then before Georgia, it was Bama. So as much as there's a lot of difference and shift of, okay, who wins the national championship, who's the best team still in the SEC? It's Georgia. And it's going to go through Georgia for the next little while, because I don't see it now. But unless Arch Manning can hit that gear with Sarkisian, I don't know if Texas can win it. And then Ty Simpson's going to go to the draft. Well, no, he said no. No, he's still going to the draft. It was Moore who said he was going to go to the draft, but then come back. And then I think even with the Big Ten too, like the Big Ten is still up for grabs because there's going to be a lot of turnover in the Big Ten with guys leaving this year for IU. And you know which team has the most quarterback experience coming back? Julian Sayin, and then also Dante Moore. So if Oregon and Ohio State meet up in the Big Ten championship game, don't be surprised. Don't be like, whoa, I never saw this coming. Texas will win it all next season. I know. I've seen that. I've seen those predictions. I've seen that everybody thinks that Texas, everybody's like, mark it right now. Texas and Oregon are playing in Vegas for the national championship. Well, if we're going to go by the metric of this season, UNLV will not be playing a home game in the national championship because it is in Vegas next year. I think if I were to be like, hey, early shots on who gets to the national championship next year, I mean, if we're looking, because again, we got to talk about the clicks and stuff. From this article and who's on this board right here, I'd be looking at Notre Dame and Georgia in the national championship. Because I think there's something to be said about, I don't like if Love comes back, because Carr's only going to get better. Carr is a decent quarterback, and the fact that, I mean, if you want to look at it from this point of view, if you want to look at Miami's loss as the reason why Notre Dame didn't get in, and that 3-point walk-off field goal, by the way. Well, I don't think it was the last. Like, I think it was a game-winning field goal in the sense that I think there was 20 seconds left or something like that. But, like, if you want to look at it from that point of view of, oh, we didn't get to the playoff because we lost to Miami. Just like how Texas looks and go, oh, we didn't get to the playoff because we lost to Ohio State in week 1. If you want to look at it from that point of view, okay, sure. But there's something that tells me that, being left out of the dance, parts of me feel like Freeman has something in mind to get them there next year. And that this is if Love comes back, because Love is going to be a big factor on if they can get there, because dude was a Heisman finalist and dude had a hell of a season with his touchdowns and yards after contact and with how many explosive games that he has, which I've made videos covering it. But yeah, Carr's only going to get better. He's not a bad quarterback. And considering that Bear Bachmeier, Carr, Sayan, and all these other freshman quarterbacks had breakout years, watch out for BYU. Watch out for Notre Dame. Watch out for, who was another freshman quarterback that had a good year? Ohio State, because I think Julian Sain's going to get better. It's not like, oh, Julian Sain, you were the runner-up in the Big Ten championship game. Don't play good football again. You're done. You're done playing good football. Like, I think Julian Sain's going to be decent in the future. So yeah, don't be surprised if in 4 years from now, when Julian Sain's a senior, this whole thing's happening all over again, where, you know, he's where Will Howard is, where, you know, I'm a senior, this is my last game, and, you know, we ride off in the sunset as champs. And then, I mean, if you want to be pretentious and an LSU fan, if you want to be an LSU fan, you can be like, "Okay, we got Lane Kiffin. We're ready, baby." Because yeah, even with the Lane Kiffins and the Coach DeBoers, I still think the SEC runs through Georgia. I know that might be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I still think it runs through them. Okay, now who else had a big game? I mean, obviously, Indiana secondary had a big game. They had the game-sealing interception. What else? Oh, yes, we did talk about Tony. But the fact that, I mean, Beck didn't have any big throws down the field. And the fact that Indiana probably saw something in the Ole Miss game footage where I think Miami were calling the same kind of plays that they did at the end of the Ole Miss game. I don't know. I could be wrong. But here's what we'll do. Guys. We will end the stream here, though, because it is... Whoa. Well, what's that all about? It is 10 o'clock. Well, it's not 10. It's actually 11. Let me see. Do we got anything else here? We're all rooting for the Hoosiers? Out of all 6 votes, rooting for the Hoosiers. All right. Yeah, sorry if it seemed like I got a little snippy today, guys. I just... One thing that infuriates me... Okay, I can't tell sarcasm half the time, too, in the chat. But, like, when people... And it's happened more than once in a few handful of streams. Wait a minute. Is when people come into the chat and, like, question, like, did you watch the game? No, clearly I didn't. I didn't watch the game. I haven't been streaming for 4 hours watching the game, giving a breakdown of the game every, commercial break. No, couldn't be me. Must have been the wind. Like, just pisses me the hell off, because it's like, but again, I can't tell the sarcasm because it's through a chat. It's not actually, but because I don't know if it's rage baiting, which if it is, congrats, you won. But I mean, there was no blatant, but back to it, like, there was no blatant ref calls or no calls or missed calls in this game that's like, wow, okay. Like how we look at the Bills-Broncos game and go, yep, that right there, if you want to look at it from that point of view of the refs being why the Bills lost. But like, yeah, If you, which even hell, we got Joe Burrow coming out being like, hey, if you guys don't know what the difference between a catch and a no catch is, then that's up, to you guys, and that's your fault. Like, we're gonna fast forward here, and then we're gonna realize like there was no up around the neck holding call like how there was with the tackle in the Bills game. There was no PI call that spotted Indiana or Miami an extra 15 yards that turned into a touchdown. Like, Indiana literally blocked the field goal, took all momentum because Miami couldn't get anything going through the air, and they took all momentum of this game, but Fletcher kept them in it. There was no holding call or any face mask call, which if there was, because there was a face mask call on Black because someone did catch him around the side cage here. You know what ended up happening after they spotted Indiana up 15 yards? Miami's defense got a stop, and then they turned around and were able to capitalize and make this a ball game. Like, and even with the thought that I had of how you look at when Mendoza scored that touchdown, there was no false start call all game. There was a false start. It halted all momentum, moved them back. They couldn't convert the third or second down or whatever with the run by Black up the left side because, oh, wouldn't you know, Bain Jr. was right there to blow up the play. That then put Cignetti in that situation where it's like, shit, we got to go for here on 4th and 5. So, anyways, I'm going to quit yapping. I'm going to quit complaining. We're going to end the stream here, though. But I thank you guys for watching and listening. I just had to get that off my chest. That, like, it's like I do not see the game the same way a lot of people do. Like, I watch the game from a coaching perspective of how, hey, you know what? Indiana should probably go for this here on 4th down instead of, oh, they need to kick. They need the points. They need because when you look at momentum of how the momentum was of the game, Indiana scores a touchdown here, game's over. They're leading by 2 possessions. But Hoosiers defense couldn't stop Miami, and then Tony and the boys came back the other way. They came right back the other way. So, yeah, momentum was a huge thing in this game. Definitely historic. That's not to be ignored. I think, this was a big game. Definitely going to be a game for a lot of Hoosier fans to remember. And that defense, the Hoosiers defense, yeah, he better get drafted somewhere. It'd be a damn shame if he doesn't get drafted. Because, again, there are a lot, and only time will tell with some of these teams and stuff, considering how many players get drafted. I could see a conversation starting on, okay, is this Indiana team the best team of all time? No. Like, yeah, they're 16-0. Yes, they tied Yale, but I mean, the best team of all time. You're putting them up against some teams in the 90s that were Nebraska, the 01 Miami Hurricanes, the 19 LSU teams, Saban's Crimson Tides in the early 2010s. Like, I mean, no. Indiana's a damn good team, but you put this Indiana team against A.J. McCarron and Trent Richardson, Amari Cooper, I think Minka Fitzpatrick was on the defensive side, Reuben Foster. No. They're not winning. They're not winning those games. Like, it is because Cignetti was under the coaching wing of Saban on why this team is the way that it is. Which that's going to be another thing that just kind of gets forgotten and lost in the whole, woo of this championship game. Is it's like, if there is no Saban, there is no Coach Signetti. Like, Signetti would have stayed. He would have stayed down at the smaller schools. Because wasn't it the Bama job that got him the JMU job? I could be wrong. I don't know. I'll have to double check my facts on that one. But like, you see what I mean? You can't compare, because it's like the standard. I'd even go as far out to say, let's throw, whether you want the 21 or the 22, you throw the 21 or the 22 Georgia Bulldogs against these Indiana Hoosiers. There's parts of me that think that Stetson Bennett and the boys get it done. Because, again, how many? 16? No. Not 16. 6? Yeah, they had 6 or 7 players drafted in the first round on the defensive side of the football. Come on. You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts and opinions on if Indiana is one of the greatest all time. They are up there. They're in that conversation. But like, if we were to make the bracket, like if we were to do a 12-team bracket of the greatest college football teams of all time, the national championship ends up being 2019 LSU against 2021 Miami. 2001 Miami. Because the point that we all make and it all ends up getting to is, well, how many guys went and played in the NFL? That's what the argument always comes down to. Because there are parts of me, because Joe Burrow did it, there's parts of me that think, yeah, that LSU team with Burrow could beat Saban's 2010 teams. Because, you know what? Tua is not too shabby. He was not bad at all at Bama. And you know what? Hurts wasn't bad either. And so even if Tua was playing bad, he was... anyways. Oh, wait. I'm a year off on that. But you see what I mean? Like, anyways. Enough rambling. Let's end the stream because it is